Can you hear me loud enough as well from the mic?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. This morning, I'm joined by property entrepreneur Carl Mathews, who I've met in his event, which he does, which is called the South Wales Property Community. But Carl will go into a little bit more about what he's involved in and what he does. How are you doing this morning, Carl? You okay?
Hi, Mike. Yeah, doing really well, thanks. How are you doing?
Yes, well, I'm having a great time, really. I really enjoyed the lockdown period. How's it been for you?
It's been restful. It's been frustrating, because we're all anxious to get out of the trap and get going. And finally, it looks like we're starting to see some release. So we're looking forward to the new season for the rest of the year.
Yeah, okay. So tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do, Carl.
Well, my background is industrial engineering, but I've kind of segued into property. So I'm looking at property investment and development. And I have a couple of companies working together to achieve that. So I'm looking at portfolio building as well as capital building. And there's a whole bunch of scenarios there and information I can go into greater depth if you want me to. So it's a case of, I thought I'd start off quite light and then we'll explore them a bit more later. But I'm also, I firmly believe in like the apprenticeship system. So I'm also trying to encourage others who are maybe just one step behind me or a couple of steps behind me to help give them a hand back and pull them along so that we make this journey together, Yeah, and that's the point of the South Wales property community.
Yeah, so that's your sort of net, if you like, to capture people who you can do some joint ventures with or help develop them on because they're a little bit behind you and you want to help them get to where you've got to.
But even if it's just a point of reference where they can just feel more confident and more comfortable about their own journey, that's great. If we can do something more to help them encourage them, that's better.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know you've got yourself into a bit of a scrape during this lockdown period. So tell us a little bit about that. What happened?
Yeah, we kind of had an incident. I was on my motorbike. I faced an oncoming car, and I managed to get away from it. My motorbike didn't. It's completely dead. But I ended up just bouncing down the road, breaking 6 ribs, and I've had to have surgery on my hand so that it, right down through there, putting the thumb joint back together, all the ligaments and everything exploded. So I got cable clips and screws, a bionic thumb now.
It sounds like you come off a bit lightly, though, really. What could have happened,
Oh, believe me, I know God was looking after me that day. It was the thickness of a hair between this and the worst option possible.
Yeah, fair enough.
So thank God I'm here.
So obviously the lockdown situation as a property person, as a property developer, has been a bit frustrating for you, and that also hasn't helped, I guess.
Well, yeah, it's kind of slowed me down. It takes me twice as long to do anything these days, like just getting up and getting ready to go. And of course, being right-handed and my right hand being in plaster, typing and emailing and it's even handling the mobile phone it does slow me down quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So, but I suppose at least that accident and injury would have affected maybe business a bit more than it's done in the lockdown, because lockdown's been a bit quiet anyway. So I suppose timing wise, it's probably better to happen now than when you're really busy doing lots of deals and stuff.
For sure. Although a few of the guys in the hospital were amazed that I was sat there with my laptop and my mobile phone researching, and they're looking at me as if, are you some kind of nuts or what?
So what was you researching? What are you looking into at the moment?
Well, looking at the way the market is going to go over the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months, I wanted to look at where the levels of the market are now, because I'm expecting them, they're fluctuating at the moment, but I'm expecting them to dip quite a bit over the next few months. I'm trying to forecast. I was looking through a crystal ball, trying to forecast what we can expect for the next 6 months and the next 12 months,
Yeah.
and to strategize my purchasing in the next few months.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you're all looking for a strategy, really, sort of trying to work out, okay, which is the route through the next couple of years.
For sure, over the next few months, there's going to be some bargains while the prices are dropping. But we've all got limited funds, so it's not always a case of just throwing money at it. And so looking at other strategies that I can use in parallel to using straightforward purchases to secure properties and build up the business.
Yeah, okay. And moving on to that then, obviously you do have a number of different strategies that you follow, not just a simple sort of buy property, do it up and sell it on or rent it out like a lot of people. So do you want to talk a little bit more about some of the strategies and some of the things you get involved in?
Well, I think like most investors, the BRRR is the basic level of where we come from: buy, refurbish, rent, refinance. So that's a fundamental for most of us. Whether you flip from there or whether you retain the property as an investment, there's a choice that has to be made for each individual and or for each case, for each property. But I'm also looking at things like lease purchase options, rent-to-rent deals, rent-to-buy deals. And on the back of them, you may turn into a service accommodation or a HMO, or even possibly do assisted sales so that you can have tenant buyouts. So I'm looking at all sorts. So it's always a case of, when I see an opportunity, what's the best outcome for this opportunity? Yeah. And then, like all good strategists, if plan A doesn't work, what's plan B, what's plan C, and then what's plan D, so that you always have a good exit strategy, that you're not surprised when the first thing doesn't quite work.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So yeah, what else? What sort of led you to have all of those different strategies? Because obviously, there's a lot of people take the property development route. A lot of them are in different sort of stages, if you like. What sort of learning have you done? What books have you read? What has helped you get to that stage where, if you like, you're strategizing lots of different strategies and coming up with the best route for each individual opportunity?
I think really for me, it comes down to my background in engineering. Yeah. So as an engineer, when I approach a task, I carry a toolbox with every tool I need for every possible outcome that I could face on the machine or the problem that I'm facing. Yeah. So I approach property in the same way, is that I want a toolbox with every tool that I could possibly need to use. And I need to be proficient in using that tool, because the wrong tool in the wrong hands can be dangerous. So I took the time to learn all the strategies that I thought I needed, and put them into my toolbox so that I can approach every opportunity and say, right, this tool for this one, but this tool for the other one. And so that's my approach in engineering. But it's also my approach in property, so that whatever opportunity comes across my desk, I can find a way of optimizing it. Yeah,
that makes sense. I myself do a similar sort of thing in the sales and marketing world. I have every tool in the box in the sales and marketing. So when I can go in and speak to a client, it's about trying to pick the right solution for them, rather than just trying to hammer in a nail with a spanner. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But I think, like all good Boy Scouts, you come prepared.
Yes. Yeah.
And whether you consider that just professionalism or proficiency, I think it's sensible to approach it from that point of view, where you have a comprehensive education, experience, and you're able to help others better.
Yeah, that's right. Still a lot of people still have the mindset of it's better to be, a master of one trade rather than necessarily a jack of all trades. But I always say, well, be a jack of all trades and then learn how to master them all. So be a master of all trades, really.
Yeah, it's exactly right. But as an engineer, I don't just learn how to use a spanner.
Yeah,
I know how to use a hammer. I also know how to use a screwdriver.
yeah,
I'm proficient in all of them.
yeah,
So it's like you say, jack of all tools, but you master them as well.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's why, shops like Tesco's or whatever, they mastered the art of becoming a baker, a butcher, a retailer, electronics store, finance suppliers. They master everything, and that's why they dominate the world. So I think, the more strings to your bow, the more skills you've got, the more better you're able to come up with better solutions.
And that's a very good example when you think of supermarkets like that, where you go to the manager of the local supermarket. He probably doesn't know any one of those himself, but he has the people with the skills around him to manage the various departments.
Yeah.
So although he coordinates the toolbox of managers, the managers then coordinate the toolbox of skills. So it makes a little pyramid of management. But it's right. You look at that principle and it works well through all of it business.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's my mindset as well. So I agree with you there.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the best lessons you've learned in property, and that you apply now? Make sure that that's something is always top of the list when you're thinking about what opportunities there are for you.
Do your own due diligence.
Okay.
That for me is one of the first and fundamental and most important lessons I've learned. I've worked with a few advisors and deal sources, and looking at the different offers that people are making, and I've got this good one, I've got this good deal, I've got this great bargain. But when you look at it for yourself, understanding your position as to how you could use the opportunity, it doesn't quite look the same color. There's always a subtle difference. So I found doing your own due diligence to make sure categorically that this is something that works for yourself and obviously the client you're working with. That's very important, because like proper investors, we always try to look for a win-win solution with anybody we're working with. Because although we're looking to make money, we're not looking to rob people to make money. We're looking to help people so that we can all benefit out of it.
Yeah.
So it's a case of do your own due diligence to make sure it works. That's certainly key.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's the same as like in a lot of things, communication, language, and opinion can be varied. So if you're not doing your own due diligence and making your own opinion, and you're listening to someone else's, somebody might say to you, "Oh, that's a fantastic area," but they might have a different opinion of what a fantastic area it is, or that would work well for professionals, and they might have a different opinion of what professionals are. Different people's language and opinion doesn't necessarily equal your language and opinion. So sometimes if you're not doing your own due diligence, you listen to other people's advice and facts and information, what they're communicating to you may be different to what you're listening to or hearing. So, that's why I'm very much make my own judgment and make my own opinion of things, not necessarily take other people's information, but put it through your filter.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Because as you say, everyone else will be slightly different. Their situation will be slightly different to yours or mine. So it's a case of what they see as a great deal may be a great deal for their situation, but for your situation, it could be not quite right, not quite the best deal. You have to check for yourself.
Yeah, we all have a different level of risk that we're prepared to take, and that sort of thing. So
yeah,
you've got to work to your own gut feeling and your own risk appetite and that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So obviously you run the South Wales property community as well. I guess I've not seen a lot from that at the moment because of the injury and the lockdown. That's sort of been parked for the while.
That is a bit of a regret, I gotta be honest. And if any of the guys are listening in, my apologies to you all, because I was hoping to do a Zoom conference with a few of the guys and just let's see how many people we could get together just to keep up the connections. But having spent the last 4 or 5 weeks in and out of hospital, I've been slightly detained from my freedom a little bit more than most. So it's been quite difficult for me, but regardless, when we get full release from this lockdown, it's one of the first things I'm going to be kicking into gear and getting the meetups organized as soon as possible. Missing you all, guys.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, I was just going to say to you, when do you see that happening? When do you think the first meeting back might be? I'm thinking maybe September time, something like that, maybe.
It's difficult. It's difficult to judge. It may be August, it may be September. We just got to wait and see what the Welsh government are allowing. We can't rush this thing, obviously. We've got to be sensible. Because they're still predicting a second spike of the virus coming in, and they're still unsure as to how the thing is panning out. But although we seem to be doing okay in Wales at the moment, it seems to be going in the right direction. It could so easily turn around before we know it. So we just have to be careful at the moment. But if we can't get the meetups going, certainly I'm hoping that for maybe the July meeting, we can have a Zoom conference and just have a chat and just say hi to everyone, make sure everyone's okay.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. And if people want to get in touch with you because they're interested in maybe some joint ventures or coming to the community or doing some property deals with you, or they got some property and that sort of thing, how do they get in touch with you, Carl?
There's a number of ways of getting in touch with me. Probably the easiest is at cozy.homes@outlook.com.
Okay, so to email.
That's the easiest one, and that's my company that I'm using for all the various tactics that and strategies I'm looking at with property. I also have a limited company that I do it for specifically for portfolio building. So I'm really invested into the property sector now. So whether it's advice on training or management of properties or maintenance stuff. And I've even been looking at offering my services for, particularly in the lockdown period where it's difficult to move around, if people wanted refurbishment evaluations done. So you can have a full list of what work is required and the expenses attached to it for a particular property. So I'm trying to be as helpful as I can for those who are even worse, in a worse situation than I am in terms of moving around.
Yeah, okay. And the South Wales property community, how do they get in touch or get engaged with you on that? If they're maybe not in the South Wales area but want to, come to the event every now and then or want to get involved in the community in some way?
Right, well, again, by email, they can contact me on c.a.matthews@hotmail.co.uk. That one, I'll be setting up. It's another thing that I was curtailed with the lockdown. I was trying to organise web pages for all these various things. But the web pages will be coming up soon, and then they'll be able to find more information for the South Wales property community there. But otherwise, it's on Eventbrite.
Yeah, on Eventbrite. And have you not set up a Facebook group for the South Wales property community?
Not yet. I tend not to use Facebook too much at the moment myself. I do look in there occasionally, but I've made myself a member of the Cardiff and South Wales property group, and a lot of the members of South Wales property community also are part of that group. So I kind of use that to talk to most of the members through there.
Yeah.
And if you raise any questions in that group for the South Wales property community, most people will kind of steer you or answer you because, like I say, most of the members are in there.
Yeah, okay. Who runs that group? Do you know who runs the Facebook group?
I think that's my friends Barbara and Michelle, who've done a very good job of organising that Facebook page and kept it going. It's been really good and it's been really helpful for a lot of people, I think. So, they've done a really good job there.
Okay, good. All right then. And what's the sort of future hold for yourself, Carl? What's the sort of grand plans? What's the big thing that you're working towards?
Over the next 24 months is to optimize on this dip in the economy now, secure as many properties, build a portfolio, purchase as many properties as I can. In the next sort of 5 years, I'm hoping to expand the whole business so that I can take a further step backwards and maybe have others helping and doing a lot of the frontline work. And then encouraging and training others to actually undertake the same sort of work themselves.
Yeah, okay. Have you plans, ambitions to create sort of online content and that sort of thing? Pass on your knowledge and experience to others?
I have thought about it, but to be honest, I prefer the personal touch. I find this more effectual.
Yeah.
And sadly, with the lockdown, it's been curtailed. I've had a couple of mentees, and they've obviously lost their impetus now with the lockdown. But I will be approaching them once we get released. I'm still in touch with them and still talking to them and helping them. But their confidence has been knocked back because it isn't the momentum has been lost in their progress. That's the problem. So with their confidence being shaken now, it's a case of build them back up and then help them to take that next step.
Okay, fair enough. Did you want to do a deep dive into to any of the other areas you mentioned earlier, or are you happy just to leave that with a sort of summary of what you're involved in?
I think that's a fair summary of it. Cozy Homes is the one company that I'm doing a lot of the different stuff with. Tabernacle Property Investments, that's where we're doing a lot of the portfolio building exercise. And then there's the South Wales Property Community. That's obviously an encouragement and a networking meeting. And then there's the Cardiff and South Wales Facebook group that helps everyone as well. So those are the main 4 areas for me. Besides the engineering work, I don't know if you can see in the background, I got some work on the board that's still ongoing. There's plans to a project that I'm working on. So I'm still doing some engineering work as well. Okay,
brilliant then. Well, I'll just say thanks a lot for coming onto the podcast and
welcome. Lovely to be here.
For sharing your information. And especially, I hope you get over your problem with your hand and get fully up and running soon. And,
well, the ribs are doing a lot better now, so thanks, Mike. They're helping. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, okay then. And yeah, thanks a lot. And there's nothing else left for me to say other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening. So
good to see you, Mike.